How can TCU close the regular season with a victory to finish 8-4 before the bowl game and beat the Cincinnati Bearcats? We'll talk about it next year on Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team. We do it here every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. We're going to talk TCU landed another player, JUCO player, cornerback, Long Beach Community College, Jonah Martinez. We'll have reaction to that in segment 2. I'll get some of your thoughts in the final segment. We start today with keys to the game and predictions. The regular season comes to an end on Saturday. Game kicks off at 5 p.m. TCU on the road against Cincinnati. A belated happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Hope you enjoyed the holiday. I'm thankful that TCU gets another game after this regular season finale and gets to play in a bowl game this year. Also thankful for everyone who watches and listens to the show. But it's going to be cold on Saturday afternoon, early evening, probably in the 30s. So the first key for me is you got to be able to run the ball. And it might be a little overblown because looking at the forecast, like there doesn't appear to be any rain or wintry mix. The wind doesn't look like it's going to be insane. So they should still be able to pass the ball. I don't think TCU is going to be at a huge disadvantage. It's not like a snow game like Pittsburgh and Cleveland a few Thursdays ago where the snowflakes were just coming down like crazy. Josh Hoover said this week that he's ready for the cold and he got used to it growing up going duck hunting all the time, which, hey, if that's what prepares you, that's great. I don't think he's going to have a camo jacket on Saturday afternoon, but I'm sure that he's played like it's not like it's going to be 5 degrees. Like he's played in some cold weather environments before. It'll be a factor. I don't think it's going to be a make or break type of situation for this game, but it will be an environment where things are more conducive to be able to run the ball. And that's something that Cincinnati does well. TCU, of course, hasn't. So I would imagine we're going to see a heavy dose of Savion Williams and that Wildcat package potentially lining up in the backfield. And the short and intermediate passing game should be all available to you, too. I think the only thing that would really affect would be the ability to take shots down the field, which TCU does more and more successfully than they did last year, but it's still not necessarily the basis of their offense. A lot of their explosive plays have come with yak yardage, just guys making catches over the middle or on the outside and then making a move and getting on the field. But I still think having balance just in general is good. And what they've done over the past few weeks with Savion has been really intriguing. He's been their leading rusher over the past 4 games. I would also love to see these running backs kind of rotate in and out more because I just feel like at this point, you're really auditioning for who can take this job in 2025, whether it's Jeremy Payne, whether it's Cam Cook. I don't really know what Trent Battle will end up doing next year. I mean, he's been on campus now for 3 seasons. I would imagine he's back. But there's a number of guys that you can give opportunities to here in a game like this to say, okay, can one of them emerge as a true lead back? Because I do think one problem, and I understand why they've done it, nobody has really taken the reins. Like you've had people that have had good games and good individual moments. It just hasn't been really consistent. But Tanner McKinney's talked about this. He's been like, I think it would help if you had one guy who, carried the rock more just to get more of a rhythm. But I think between the fact that they haven't been able to run the ball super effectively and they kind of abandoned that, and then they found a workaround, but it wasn't with the running backs, those guys have sort of taken a back seat. I will say, quietly, not from a yardage perspective, it's not like he's racking up crazy yards, but I think Cam Cook has done a better job lately, especially in the red zone. Like he had the 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma State. He had a touchdown last week against Arizona where he had a nice cutback, or he planted his foot in the ground and got north and south and was able to kind of get skinny and get through some traffic and score. He looks more comfortable. And as much as there have been struggles this year for some of these young guys, it's important to say, like, you can't just give up on somebody, even if it's 1 year where it's been tough. Now, I believe they need to bring someone in to have some competition in that running back room in the transfer portal. But I think we have to allow these young players, Cam Cook specifically, to have another offseason, to get stronger, to grow and develop. And, for some guys, it just takes a little while. Like, there's a speed to this game that is different than playing at the high school level. There's a lot that's asked of you if you're going to be the number one running back. And so maybe getting some time to kind of watch and reset and just think some things over has been really good for him. But overall for this game, you have to find a way to run the ball and have some semblance of balance on offense so you're not putting so much pressure on your quarterback in conditions that might not be ideal. But these weapons on the outside, like Scott Satterfield, the Cincinnati coach, talked about it, that's TCU's bread and butter. I still think that's going to be a major part of what they do. And I feel like a lot of their passing games are going to be open to them. It's not a situation where the weather's going to be so bad that they just can't do anything at all. Second key sort of ties into the first, and it's about the offensive line. Can you block well up front? Cincinnati's got 21 sacks on the year. One of their linebackers, Jared Bartlett, he's leading the team with 7.5. That's really remarkable from the linebacker position. They bring him in a lot of pressure. And then they got a big nose tackle in the middle, Dante Corleone, who's only got 3.5 sacks on the season. And his numbers aren't eye-popping, but for a nose tackle, like he's got 14 solo tackles. He's got about 30 tackles overall. For a nose tackle to be as productive as he is, that's pretty rare. He's big. He's physical. He can take up space. And he's really good at disrupting the rhythm and timing of plays and allowing those linebackers to come downhill and make things happen. Sonny Dykes pointed Corleone out in the press conference this week and talked about how he was such a big key. Because if you're getting beat at the point of attack by a nose tackle, that can throw a lot of things out of whack. If you're trying to pull linemen around, suddenly your center's getting shoved back and then guys are running into each other and it messes up the timing of that whole play. If you're trying to double team him and you can't move him, then there's a lot of traffic suddenly in the A gap where you want to run. So need to find a way to slow him down, limit, the blitzing from the linebackers, or at least pick it up. And honestly, that's something that TCU's done pretty well this year. The run blocking has been a consistent issue, even though I do think it's improved somewhat. Pass blocking's been solid. And I do have optimism for this O-line next season, just because, one, they have some continuity. Two, I think there's some things that they do well. It's just about honing in on, okay, how do we, continue to grow in those areas and also get more consistent in running the football. And Ryan Hughes has gotten some playing time the last few weeks. We'll see Ben Taylor Whitfield out there again on Saturday. So more valuable experience for these young guys to get out there and make things happen and just do a good job, trying to limit a Cincinnati front seven that's pretty solid. This Cincinnati defense, they're not like, from a stats perspective, it's not eye-popping, but they've done a good job this year of holding teams in check. In the last few weeks, they've struggled against some good offenses like Iowa State, Kansas State, West Virginia put up 30-plus on them, so did Colorado. So it's been proven that if you have playmakers and if you have guys that can win one-on-one matchups, there's opportunities to have success here. So TCU needs to find a way to do that. Another player that I wanted to mention because he's having a really good season, and he's from the Dallas area, Brendan Sorsby, 2,600 passing yards this year, 18 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. He's also got 352 yards on the ground, so he's sort of a dual threat. Not like a burner from a speed perspective, but he's got that ability to make you pay if you're not paying attention to him. So Sonny mentioned him as well in that presser and said that he's one of the best signal callers in the Big 12. Offensively, this is a Cincinnati team that's pretty balanced. They don't have one player that really stands out. Like from a receiving perspective, Xavier Henderson is leading their team with almost 700 yards receiving. And then Joe Royer, their tight end, has 490. A couple other wide receivers with around 450, 500 yards. And then running the ball, they do it really well. Corey Kiner has over 1,000 yards rushing. They're averaging about 5 yards a carry. So they can run the ball effectively, and they use that to allow Sorsby to get out and make plays and make things happen. Defensively, actually continue to play assignment football. And, this TCU defense, I said it over the last couple of weeks, it feels like they're getting to a place where there's still some personnel issues. Like they need to get more dudes. They need to get some more talent overall. I think, 1 through 11, but they're playing together well. I think they're playing fundamentally sound football. Against Arizona last week, I mean, really, the couple of drives where they went down the field, I think soft coverage was the main culprit. It just seemed like Andy Avalos was concerned about getting beat deep, which you would expect that with a dude like Terry McMillan out there, who's a Blitnikoff finalist and had over 100 yards receiving. And they let Arizona kind of methodically go down the field, but when they had to lock in and get stops, they did that. And in the first half against Oklahoma State, they were great. I think in the second half against Arizona, they were solid. In the first quarter against Arizona, they were solid. They're becoming a team and a unit that can play really well for stretches. And they've got some consistency in the secondary now. I like what Channing Canada's brought to the table. I think he's been very competitive on the other side of Lamarian James, who has been solid all year long. Getting Marcus Deal back last week was significant. I think quietly they've become a very consistent piece of this team. And going into next year, that's going to be a huge key. So can you limit Sorsby and the Cincinnati running game and find ways to get them off the field? And as always, and they've done a better job of this here as of late, getting off to a good start's key. I mean, they did that against Oklahoma State. They did it against Arizona. Really, they did that against Baylor. And, the thing about that is, like, against Arizona, they got to a good start, and then they kind of had a lull in the second quarter, which is unfortunate. But because they had a 2-score lead, they were able to survive that. They got a touchdown drive right before halftime, sort of stabilize things. And then you get in the locker room, your group, and you come out and you win the ball game. So those are the keys to the game. Prediction time. I think TCU ends the regular season at 8-4. I feel like they go up there to Cincinnati and get a victory. This is a solid Cincinnati team. They've had some good wins this year. Beat Arizona State at home. Arizona State is maybe the best team in the conference right now. They beat Houston solidly. Houston's had some good moments. They had a victory against UCF as well, kind of in the middle of the season. UCF's been struggling lately, but we know they took down TCU. So there's some talent here. And I think the Cincinnati team plays good football, but they're in the midst of a 4-game losing streak. Should be a good environment. I mean, this is a game for them on their end where they got to get to bowl eligibility. I think ultimately, though, TCU's got too much talent, and they're playing fairly clean football right now. I mean, they're not really turning the ball over. They've eliminated a lot of these dumb penalties, and these are simple things, but they're things that they weren't doing at the beginning of the season. And so that's helped them improve, right? Like it's frustrating that they couldn't do that through the first half of the year, but to this coaching staff's credit, they've kind of figured it out as the year goes on. So I think TCU wins and they get to 8-4 on the year. When we come back, Frogs landed another junior college player for the 2025 class. Let's talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. If you need tickets to a sporting event, theater production, comedy show, whatever it is, check out the Gametime app today. You can download it. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And that's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. A couple things I love about the Gametime app. They have last-minute deals, so you can kind of wait it out and see if these prices go down, see if there's a better deal available. They also show you a picture of what you're going to see from your seat when you sit down. There's no hidden fees. There's some fees, but they tell you what they are up front, so you don't go to checkout and suddenly it's like, wow, why am I paying $40 more for this ticket than I anticipated? Download the Gametime app today. Tickets go straight to the app. You don't have to wonder where they are. Again, that promo code is LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions, as always, do apply. Gametime. Give it a try today. So TCU continuing to make some moves on the recruiting trail. They landed a corner out of Long Beach Community College. If that name is familiar to you, they were featured on Last Chance U a few years ago. Jonah Martinez. Jonah is 6'1", listed at 180 pounds. He was an all-conference player at Long Beach CC, according to Jeremy Clark from 247 Sports. Also from that article on 247 Sports, he had 11 tackles. He was second in the conference with 4 interceptions and also forced a fumble. So productive career there, and he'll have a couple seasons to play. TCU landed a couple of defensive linemen from the JUCO ranks earlier this week. Kelton Mickle from Jones College in Mississippi, who's I think projects as a defensive tackle. He's around 300 pounds, 6'4". He played some defensive end too at Jones College, but I believe at TCU he'll be more on the interior. And then another interior defensive lineman, Perry Cole, who's coming from Athens, Texas, and Trinity Valley Community College. And these are guys that they expect to be at least depth pieces right away. You know, in the case of Jonah, he's not rated on 247 Sports as a prospect. He does have, some FBS offers. Arizona offered, Eastern Michigan, Florida International, Georgia State. This feels like, to me, just a guy that TCU has scouted and they really like. North Texas offered him. So, I mean, a lot of G5 offers, that type of thing. But I think TCU, this is just a player that they're kind of enamored with, and they trust their scouting department, and they're going to give him a chance. He does have good size. We talk about wanting tall, rangy corners now that can make up ground if they get beat and can make plays. He shows a knack for getting the football, 4 interceptions, which that's something that translates at every level. You really can't teach instincts and ball skills. Some dudes have it as a DB, some don't. Some are guys that it's kind of the old joke, like that's why they play corner or safety instead of wide receiver. It's an instinctual thing. So he's shown an ability to go get the football, and he's got that prototypical frame that you want from this type of player. So that's 27 commits now for this 2025 class that TCU has. And we're less than a week from that first signing day. So, I mean, we're wrapping things up now. We're getting to kind of those last guys to fill out the class. Sonny will have a press conference this week where he'll talk about what their future plans are. You do have, you've got a couple more months here before the final signing day. So you have a chance to sort of build on this if you want, but I would think they're probably pretty close to being done. And they get a couple of JUCO guys that they had on campus for an official visit for that Arizona game. The staff does seem to have a good knack for, like, if they get people on campus, oftentimes they're going to land them. Getting Terry Shelton on campus during the bye week after he decommitted from Arizona, and they almost immediately get him to commit. He's going to enroll early. A lot of players looking to graduate in December, get to campus in January, and get after it. And this is the class where one interesting thing from the Arizona broadcast on ESPN Plus that I noticed. Sonny was talking to the broadcasters, which is a typical thing. They fly in a couple days early, get to meet with the team, get to meet with the coaching staff. And I don't know how it came up. I guess maybe they talked about it because the first signing day is so close. But he said, a lot of people expect after we had that great run in 2022 that our 2024 class, the upcoming class in that season, would be the one that had all the outstanding players. But he said, really, it's 2 years down the road, because a lot of the guys in the moment that are watching as juniors, those dudes that are making decisions right now while TCU's going on that great run, a lot of them had already made their choice. So I guess with this group of players, they got to see TCU play at a high level, go on that crazy run, and it left an impact on them. Now, whether that's him just kind of selling something because they didn't have a super highly rated class a couple cycles ago, and now they're back in the top 25, at least according to 247 Sports, or that's legit, it remains to be seen. I do think there's something to the fact that a lot of these guys were sophomores when TCU was going on that crazy 12-0 season. And it probably did stand out to a bunch of them and make them say, okay, well, at least maybe I should at least consider that school. And then the Frogs were able to close the deal. But Jonah Martinez from Long Beach Community College, 4 interceptions, a lot of pass breakups, 11 tackles, and again, just that kind of prototypical size that you want from a corner in today's brand of football, who can run and has the height and strength to stay with bigger, more physical wide receivers. So that's the latest on the recruiting front. We'll have plenty of coverage next week because TCU won't have a game. So it'll just kind of be all zeroed in on those last minute details before signing day. When we come back, we'll get into some of your thoughts from yesterday's show. It's Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, I tell you about them often and for good reason. Been a great sponsor of our network for a long time. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. You win one $5 bet. Just place one $5 bet. If you win, you get $150 in bonus bets. They have all kinds of opportunities. College basketball, college football, NBA, NHL, NFL. It's all going on. Great time to be a sports fan. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Give it a try today. If you love sports and you've always wondered what's it like to you just kind of see what the lines are, give it a chance. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Again, one winning $5 bet gets you $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. So I guess it was Wednesday's show because I didn't have a show on Thanksgiving. I said yesterday, but I took Turkey Day off. I discussed some of the recent commits for TCU, those two defensive linemen that have found a way to commit to the Frogs after visiting last week. Floyd says, my son, Floyd Guidry, is wrapping up everything to graduate early this fall. He's excited to get acclimated to college life early this spring. So it's like being a freshman trying to make varsity again. Yeah, this is awesome. We're happy that Floyd's a Frog, and I'm excited to see what he does in his career at TCU. And I have noticed, like, maybe not a lot, but a number of parents of current players, commits, have reached out. So, hey, thanks for listening. I appreciate it. This is a passionate community here that loves TCU athletics and loves TCU football, and we want nothing but success for everybody who commits here and gets on campus. So best of luck to Floyd, and congrats to him and his family for making a dream happen by playing at this level of college football, which, I mean, the athleticism and the commitment and the hard work it takes to get here is crazy. So that's a testament to him and the family as well. Ben says that he's thankful for the show, and it's become his daily routine to watch the podcast. Thank you, Ben. That's so nice. I appreciate you guys as well. Hope you had a good holiday, and excited to see what TCU does against Cincinnati. And then Jim says, I'd like to see some tape of these guys when you talk about them. That's a good idea. I'll try to incorporate that more when I talk about recruits. Actual, I talk about film that I watch, but I know it doesn't really translate if I'm just kind of communicating it to you with no background of what I'm talking about. TCU basketball is in action. The women play Notre Dame on Friday. Unfortunately, I'm recording this show on Thursday, so not sure what happens between TCU men and Santa Clara, but they are there in that tournament. So hopefully they can bounce back. TCU women, another chance to go prove that, they're for real. This Notre Dame team is good. They're number 3 in the country. They're undefeated. They've so far destroyed all their opponents. So Haley Van Lith, Sedona Prince, ready to see them play. It's on Flow Sports, which I don't like Flow Sports. It costs a lot of money, and I don't think they do a free trial anymore. But, that'll be fun to see how they do and how they fare. And then we'll have a post-game show on Saturday night after the Cincinnati game, and we'll be getting ready for a bowl game, maybe the Texas Bowl against an SEC opponent, potentially the Liberty Bowl. I've seen the Armed Forces Bowl thrown out there as well, which, of course, would be at Amon G. Carter Stadium. I don't think that would happen, but it's a possibility. I know my friend Richard wants to see him in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which is going to be played in Florida. A lot of different possibilities on the table for TCU. But first things first, got to take care of business against Cincinnati on the road. Should be a fun one. Chance to go 5-1 in your last 6 games, which would be a pretty remarkable turnaround. I know the schedule and the opponent and all those things, but given where they were, after the Houston game, going to that first bye week at 3-3, I was sitting there thinking, man, this team might be 4-8, maybe 5-7 at best. Hopefully they can get to 6 wins, and they've surpassed that. They found a way to get to 7. Hopefully they'll find a way to get to 8 as they take on Brendan Sorsby and the Bearcats on ESPN Plus. 5 o'clock post-game show, probably 8 or 8:30 on Saturday night. Thanks for tuning in. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. It's your team every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast.